Student, welcome to mathematics class. The topic for today is algebraic process. Algebraic process using involving quadratic equation. Quadratic equation. What is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation is of the form of x raised to the power 2 minus bx plus c. This is the form at which a quadratic equation is written. And whenever you see an equation of this formation or like this, where a is not equal to what? 0, then you have a quadratic equation. This a here must not be what? 0. The other side could be 1, it could be 2, must not be 0. Understand? And of course, b also could take any value, and c also could be any value. So for example, x squared plus 3x plus 5. In this context, in this equation, our a is 1, our b is 3, and our c is 5. Take note of that. You understand? It's 5. So when you have that, x squared is what? Is the variable, is the unknown. The x here is unknown. While 3 of this 3x is the coefficient of x. The coefficient of x is 3, and 5 is the constant. In a quadratic expression, 2 is the highest power of the equation. 2 is always the highest power of that equation. When you see an expression like this, having the unknown x to have the power of 2, then that is what the quadratic equation is, always having the highest power of 2. The quadratic equation can be solved using this method. You can use factorization, you can use complete the square method, you can use graphical method, you can use quadratic formula. There is a quadratic formula that we call almighty formula, in which you insert all those knowns and unknowns to get the unknowns. So let's consider factorization method. I want us to first of all embrace factorization before we now move into the application of factorization in quadratic equation. To factorize a quadratic equation or expression is to break it into what? Into product of its factors. That means when you have a bigger expression, you are now breaking it down into 2 or 3, then for you to be able to have a separate entity which are called the factors. So the first thing when you hear about factorization is just the breaking down of a bigger expression into other smaller expressions, in which by the time you bring those smaller expressions together, which are factors, will give you back that bigger equation. So for example, question 1, x squared minus 4x minus 12 is equal to 0. That's the what? That's the bigger expression, the bigger quadratic equation. Don't forget, quadratic equation will have the highest power of 2. Do you understand? They have the highest power of 2. Then it will have the variable, and some other. It also will have a constant. So let's break this x squared minus 4x minus 12 into 0. Break it down. The first thing for you to do is to what? Is to find which the first method is for you to do what is that thing. Consider the middle term here, the middle term, which is minus 4x. What is that thing that you can do? What you can add together, that will give you this middle value. What other values can you add together that will give you this middle value? At the same time, when you multiply it, will give you the third term. I mean, this is the first, this is the second, this is the third. What's that value that when you add together, it will give you this value? Those Just think about it. And at the same time, when you multiply it together, then you mean, what I mean is the sum of that value and the product. So for this now, if you have minus 6 plus 2 will give you what? That's the sum. You have your what? You have your minus 4. At the same time, if you multiply minus 6 times 2, what will it give you? It will give you minus 12. So minus 6 plus 2x justifies the value to be put in this expression. So what do? You put minus x squared minus 6x, don't forget 6x plus 2x, and by the time you take the sum of these two values, this mid value, then you should get minus 4x. You understand? Minus 12x. So you are putting in those equations, the two factors, you are bringing them into this. By the time you do that, you have how many terms now? From 3 terms, you have 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from that, then you can easily break those two terms into, group them into two. That is the next thing. You group the grouping. Group this one, you group the other one. So by the time you group this one, then you take out the common factor here. What is common to x? What is common to 6x? What is common to 6x? The 6x and also common to x squared is what? You have x. You bring it out. So by the time you bring it out, you open the bracket, then you have x here minus 6. If you want to get this back, if you want to be sure if you get this right, multiply this by this. You have x squared. You have this again. Multiply 6x, x minus x by 6, then you have what? Minus 6x. So you are so sure that you got this next phase right. Then what is common to 2x and also minus 12x? 2 is common to both. By the time you have x, you have 2x, you have 6. 2 times minus 6 will give you minus 12, and 2 times x will give you 2x. Then you move to, now one of the critical things for you to at this point is that the two values in parentheses inside the bracket must be the same. If the two values in the bracket are not the same, then you have gotten something missing in the previous stages. So if these are correct, then you can be sure that your answer will be correct. Then you pick one of those values in the parentheses in the bracket, which is what? X minus 6, and these together, x plus 2, bring them together. With this now, you have gotten the two factors. You have gotten the two factors. By the time you get those two factors, then you have been able to do to factorize. You have been able to factorize that quadratic expression. You have been able to factorize that one. So the factors of x squared minus 4x minus 12 are what? X plus 2 and x minus 6. X plus 2 and x minus 6. Now, in further approach, sometimes the question becomes like, you should do what? You should get the root to the solution. You get the root of what? Of the quadratic equation. You have been able to get the factors. So from the factors you have gotten for the quadratic equation, you can get the root of that equation. How do you do that? If x, you close the bracket, if open bracket x plus 2 close bracket x minus 2 is equal to 0, you understand? Then x plus 2, this x plus 2 is equal to 0. If these two values is equal to 0, then one of them should be what? 0, right? So that means if you multiply 0 by this, it will give you 0. If you take this as 0, it will give you what? 0. So let's take one out of this to be 0. X plus 2 is equal to 0. Then x is equal to minus 2. These 2 plus 2 will cross the equality sign and becomes what? Negative 2. So negative minus 2, that will be minus 2. So that means x can be what? Minus 2. Then you come to this. If this x minus 6 is equal to 0, if this is the 0, then x minus 2 is equal to 0, then you have what? X is equal to 6. When minus 6 crosses the equality sign, then it becomes what? Positive 6. So the two roots, the value of x, which are the two roots or the two solutions for that quadratic equation, are what? X minus 2 or x is equal to 6. So for you to check if your answer, is correct, it's actually correct, you put the value of the x, the two values we've gotten for x, you put them back into the equation. To check now if you have gotten the two roots correctly, what you need to do is to put either x is equal to minus 2 or x is equal to 6 into the equation given. It should be equals to 0. So let's try if our x is equal to minus 2. Then wherever from the equation given to us, from this equation given to us, which is x squared minus 4x minus 12, let us put, for everywhere we find x, let us put minus 2. So our x is minus 2, so minus 2 raised to power 2 minus 4 raised to power minus 4 bracket minus 2 minus 12. Minus 2 raised to power 2 will give us what? That is minus 2 times minus 2 will give us 4. And we have minus 4 times minus 2 will give us what? Positive 8 plus 8 minus 12. So add this together, we have plus 4 minus 8 plus 4 plus 4 plus 8 will give you what? 12 minus this 12 minus 12. Then minus 12 minus 12 will give us 0. You can see that that value actually is correct. So we are able to get 0. So if x minus 6, if our answer is x minus 6, because sometimes you may get one of the factors correctly and the other one is incorrect. So you have to try at a point where you are not so sure, you have to try those two values in that equation so that you're able to be sure that the two roots you've gotten are correct. So let's put 6 into x. So whenever you see x, just put 6. So x raised to power 2 minus 4 into bracket 6 close bracket minus 12. 6 times 6 will give us 36 minus 24, which is minus 4 times 6 will give us minus 24 minus 12. So you have 36. So 36 minus 24 will give us what? 12. Minus 6, 12 will give you have 12. 12 minus 12 will give us 0. So that means the two values, x minus 2 or x is equal to 6, are what? Are the correct root of that quadratic expression. So let's move to question 2 so that we could get more. I want us to get more questions so that we'll be able to solve as many as possible. So now this is another quadratic expression, 2b squared plus 7b minus 5 minus 15. One of those things when you see quadratic equation is that a, which is the coefficient, is the coefficient of b squared, cannot be what? 0. Cannot be 0. It could be 1, it could be 2. So and the power, the highest power should be what? Should be 2. More than, it should not be more than 2, it should be 2. So plus 7b minus 15. So 7b minus 15. Now, since the coefficient of the first term, which is the first term, is what? First term, which is 2b, is what? Is 2. Then we follow this step. Take note of all these steps. You know, question 1 is different from question 2. So find the product. The first thing is to find the product of the first term. Find the product of the first term and last term. This is the first term and this is the last term. This is the first term, second term, third term. So when you find that, you multiply it together. That is, you multiply 2b squared times minus b squared. You know, don't forget the quality sign. You could have plus here, you could have negative. So don't, if you miss out this negative sign, then you will get wrong answer, the wrong expression. So 2b squared times minus 15 give us what? Minus 30b squared. The second step is for you to find the two factors whose product will be what? Minus 30b squared, and their sum will give us plus 7b. What are the two factors that will give you what? The two factors whose product will give you minus 30b squared, and the same one will give you what? Plus 7b, which is the middle term. those two terms that we could use is what? Positive 10b plus 10b and minus 3b. With plus 10b, if you multiply 10b times minus 3b will give you what? 30 minus 30b squared. And by the time you do what? By the time you sum them together, when you sum, then you have your what? You have plus 7b. So the two factors we are to use is what? Plus 10b and minus 3b. Those are the two factors. So how do we do it? We put the two values into the middle term. We put it in the middle term. What is the middle term? We change plus 7b to be what? 10b minus 3b, because even the mid term will actually give you what? The mid term will actually give you what? The mid term will give you, that's the mid term. So the middle term for 10b, positive 10b minus 3b is equals to what? Plus 7b. So you have not to worry, just put the two terms in there. So you do the grouping, group this together, 2b squared plus 10b, you group it, minus 10b plus 15, you group it together. Then from there you get the what? What is common to both these two? What is common to both? What is common is 2b, because 2b times b will give us 2b squared. 2b times 5 will give you what? 10b. So that is 2b is common. What is common to this? We have 3 is common. 3b, 3 times b will give us what? 3b. 3 times 5 will give us what? 15. So 3 is common. So what did I tell you? One of those things you should consider is what? These two values in the parentheses, are they the same? If they are the same, then you pick one of the two, which is plus b plus 5, and this value, the common value, bring them together, 2b minus 3. Then these are what? These are the what? Are the factors. Those are the factors of what? Of that expression. Now, just like within question number 1, for you to get the value, the root, then you equate these two, this expression, you equate them to what? 0. If you equate them to 0, that means one of them should be what? 0, for you to get 0. If one of this is 0, then the product will be 0. So 2b minus 3 is equal to 0. Let's assume that this one, 2b minus 3, is 0. Now, we want to make b the subject of the formula. That's what we want to do. You should know that. If you don't know how to make to take the subject of the formula, you can check some of our lessons, previous lessons, to be able to do that. So 2b minus 3b is equal to 0. Now 2b is equal to what? You take the constant to the other side. By the time this minus 3 cos the equality sign becomes 3, then you want to make b the subject of the formula. Then you do what? You divide both sides by what? By 2. So when you divide both sides by 2, you have b is equal to 3 over 2. So then that means b is equal to 3 over 2. Now, if this b plus 5 is equal to 0, then you have your what? B is equal to what? Minus 5. When this positive 5 crosses to equality, because negative 5, so you have minus 5. So either b is equal to 3 over 2 or b is equal to minus 5. Those are the two roots, the two solutions of that quadratic expression. The solution or the roots are what? B is equal to 3 over 2 or b is equal to minus 5. So let's consider question 3. Factorize t squared minus 9. T squared minus 9. T squared minus 9. Now, t squared minus 9, the root of this is what? 3 times 3 will give you what? 9. So factorize this, t minus 3 and t minus, what is common to this is what? 3. So from there you can check this. T minus 3, t plus 3 is equal to 3. So t minus 3 is equal to 0. T, when it crosses the other side, it becomes what? It becomes 3. Or t plus 3 is equal to 0. T is equal to what? Minus 3. Those are the two factors. Those are the two roots. Those are the two roots, and these are the two factors for this quadratic. Let's move to question 4. Find the quadratic equation whose roots are 2 and 3. So I'm bringing question number 4 because sometimes in some of the questions that you could find as regards quadratic equation is for them to give you roots. Roots can be given. You understand? Roots can be given to you, and from that root you're able to form that quadratic equation or quadratic expression. So let's go. The first root is 2 and the second is minus 3. That means x is equal to 2. This is equal to, or x is equal to minus 3. Now bringing it back is just like you are moving forward for you to get a what? For you to get the root of the quadratic equation. Now if you are giving the root, then you are moving backward from where you are. When you started, you are moving towards that when you started. You understand? So this x equates this to be 0. This expression to be 0. That means this x equal to, by the time to move back to what? To equality sign, it becomes negative, it's equal to 0. And also if this moves to the other side, it becomes a positive 0, so you have 0. So these are the two factors now. These are the two factors. These are the roots. Don't forget this. These are the roots. Roots are different from what? Factors. So these are the factors. X plus 2, x minus 2. The two factors are what? X minus 2, x plus 3. Now, for you to now get the quadratic equation, the quadratic expression, you have to do what? Do the expanding of all those factors. Expanding of all the factors is done like this. If you don't know, you can visit some other previous lessons, but I will take you through the basics now. How do you expand this? You multiply this by this, you multiply this again by this. Then now come back again, you multiply this by this, and you multiply this by this. That's how, there's the basis. So now let's multiply this by this. X by x. So x times x will give us what? X squared. So let's go. X times what? Times plus 3 will give us what? Plus 3x. Now minus 2 times x will give us what? Minus 2x. And minus 2x times plus 3 will give us what? Minus 6. Can you see? You have done the basis of what? Expanding. So you have expanded the factors. But that's not the end. You have to consider resolving it. This is common. This is 3x minus 2x. That's the same. So x squared plus, so 3x, 3 plus 3x minus 2x will give us what? That's you are subtracting. You are subtracting. So you have just 1x. You have 1x. That is x. So x squared plus x minus 6. So x squared plus x minus 6 is what is the required quadratic equation. You can even do it further by doing what? Going back to like example 1. You can take this quadratic equation for you to get back to what? The root of the equation. So with this, we've come to the end of today's class. If you have any questions, if you have any topic that you want us to treat with you, you can drop it in the comment section. So see you in our next class. Bye. Keep studying, keep reading, and keep giving solutions.